Hello everyone, and welcome back to the world of Dragon Age. Dragon Age offers us a large, multifaceted world with plenty of secrets to uncover. Even after almost 10 years, some secrets may puzzle some players. Well, today, we'll come some more secrets about Ferelden's favorite little wed village, with 10 detailed secrets and things about Redcliffe. For our first slot, as always, we have some history. Redcliffe is one of the largest and oldest towns in Ferelden, and is prominent due to its lake location and proximity to Orzammar. Most of the citizens of Redcliffe that we see in the militia are likely fishermen, dock workers, or merchants. We can even safely predict that many surface dwarves, like Dwyn, likely come to Redcliffe due to its proximity to Orzammar. Additionally, Liliana, when asked about what she knows, will state she knows little, but that the name implies many bloody battles were first fought here. This is actually true, as Calenhad, Kaelin's ancestor, once said the fate of Redcliffe is the fate of all Ferelden. Redcliffe is seen as the first line of defense of Ferelden, and Redcliffe Castle was designed to be impenetrable as such. The important trade connection of Redcliffe is what has made it prime real estate for all Ferelden's wars. For number 2 slot, let's talk again about Jowan, and the fate of him during this quest. I discussed previously in my Circle Tower video how Jowan was an escaped blood mage during the mage origin story. He was on the run from the Templars, he was captured and then set free by Loghain. After Loghain had heard about Jowan from his good buddy Uldred, Loghain then taxed Jowan with going undercover as a magic tutor for Eamon's son Connor, the secret mage. He was then to go into the castle to poison Eamon. If Jowan did this, Loghain promised to allow Jowan back in the tower, as if the whole Blood Mates incident never happened. Spoiler alert, even if Jowan completed everything, the Chantry would never agree to this deal, and would tranquil execute Jowan immediately upon his return. Now, Jowan did begin teaching Connor, and soon after, poisoned all Eamon. However, for one reason or the other, Jowan did not escape, and was locked up immediately after Eamon's poisoning. Now, immediately after Eamon's poisoning, Connor made a deal with a demon who took advantage of the chaos of the situation to possess Connor, which then caused the castle to be overrun by dead and magic, as well as eventually the village of Redcliffe itself. Jowan was assumed responsible for all of this, and in a way, his stupidity is what set up this entire situation when we the player arrive. And now the Warden must choose the final fate for Jowan. Jowan has 3 execution options. The first when you first meet him locked up in the dungeon, the second if you convince Tegan you want to execute him, and the third if you let Eamon kill him after Eamon is cured. Jowan can also be convinced to be let to return to the circle by Eamon. However, the likely result is tranquility or execution anyway. The third option is again in the dungeon to simply let Jowan go when you first meet him, which begins a Radiant quest, Jowan's Intention, where you find out Jowan is protecting refugees as a form of penance, which is nice and the best outcome for him, but it's not big in the Justice Department. Either way, the choice is yours. For our third slot, Connor is a mage, but has sold assists to everyone that only she knew of his magical abilities. Even Jowan insisted that Eamon never knew. But Loghain has a very different version of events.
Eamon, for all his merits, is a conservative man. He believes in tradition and inheritance, and would never see the daughter of a freeholder, however gifted, in power. No? You might want to wonder then how a blood mage ended up employed by his household. How likely was it that only Isolde was aware of Connor's gift? Eamon knew, and he allowed it to be hushed up so the boy could remain heir. Better that than allow the Arling to go to his childless younger brother, only to pass out of the hands of the Gerrin family altogether.
Now, Loghain's evidence of this is circumstantial, but this does explain quite a bit. For one, Jowan describes that Connor was showing signs of magic, which he was being taught to conceal. So Eamon never once saw something odd about Connor, which made him question? The second question is Isolde clearly told everyone that Jowan was a teacher, which allowed him to get into the castle and access to Connor, but Jowan is like maybe early 20s? He would be the age of a teaching assistant in a modern education standard. In a fantasy setting, teachers would be much older. so it's weird this didn't set off a red flag for Eamon or anybody. Third, John clearly had private tutoring sessions with Connor, so Eamon never once dropped by, observed them, asked Connor what he learned, anything. Look, this doesn't really impact the decisions of the story, but it does give you a broader perspective of Eamon's character and motivation, considering Loghain said he wanted to keep this a secret so that nobody would find out and he would lose an heir. For a fourth slot, the first act of the main quest of Redcliffe has us defending the village. While we only have to do one quest with the blacksmith to progress, we can do several side quests to improve the villagers' chances. If we are able to save everyone, we get a special congratulations, as well as a unique helmet. So how do we save everybody? Well, there are a few steps. First, convincing Owen to make the repairs gives the militia the best armor. Finding the oil barrels in a Redcliffe general store and telling Sir Perf about them will give some added fire damage during the fight. Allowing the tavern to serve free ale and recruiting Drin will boost morale, which I believe gives extra militia members during the fight. And the final setup is don't recruit Lloyd for the fight. He sucks, he has the least damage and armor, and therefore is the hardest to keep alive. Now that the setup is done, the best way to keep all the militia alive is Cleansing Aura, which is the final tier in the Spirit Healer specialization. So bring Wynn and have her stand around the militia with Cleansing Aura activated, occasionally maybe healing a single member with heal. If for some reason you don't have this spell, additional methods are Fire Bombs, Fire Enchantment, Shale Stone Aura, which makes the militia tankier, and most important, a heal spell to heal individual militia members to keep everything organized. Also, our Lord and Savior, Topsider's Honor. Oh god, I love you. Now, doing this awards extra XP and the Helm of the Red, but that is only if you keep every militia member alive, and it is not always easy. Good luck, and remember to save. Now, for a fifth slot, let's switch to how to kill everyone in Redcliffe. At any time after talking with Tegan, we can leave the village and go to another location. The party camp, however, doesn't count. Once we arrive somewhere, a cutscene plays that shows the attack of Redcliffe. When we come back to Redcliffe Village, it is empty except for a lone scavenger, and when we enter the chantry, Tegan is magically still alive. Tegan apparently has Essential Mode on. That's what I'm going with. Now at this point, the quest continues normally, with you entering the castle, but of two major differences. The first is you lose access to the Chanter's Board, Blackstone Irregular missions, and every other side quest in Redcliffe. The second is the castle. You fight the corpses of every named NPC in the village, in addition to the regular enemies there, just to remind you of your failure. But hey, you save time, right? For a sixth slot, Owen, the drunken blacksmith in Redcliffe, is another character who can have several different fates based on the player actions. When we first agree to help defend the village, we visit Owen to get him to make armor repairs. But just like this old cartoon plots, he wants something too. Owen will only help us if we agree to find his daughter Valena in the castle. Well, later in the quest, we can find her close to the kitchen area of the castle, hiding in the corner room. Simply talking to her will complete the objective. After freeing her, returning to the blacksmith will complete the quest and you'll be awarded with some fine dwarven armor, as well as an improved shop inventory for Owen. However, it may be more beneficial to the player to not find Valena. Simply leave her in the corner and then return to the blacksmith and say you couldn't find her. She will likely become killed by the undead if you don't free her. Telling Owen this will give you a less impressive helmet, and entering the blacksmith after leaving, you'll discover a new blacksmith working there. He will inform you that Owen hanged himself out of grief for his daughter. He will ask if you knew Owen, to which you can lie and say yes and receive a unique amulet. You can also kill Owen yourself earlier in the quest to achieve the same result. More importantly, this new blacksmith is much better than Owen in terms of his merchandise. He even has a contender for the best bow in the game, Farsong. The only way we can get this bow is from the new blacksmith, which will cost over 100 gold to purchase. This bow is slightly better than both Magellan's Recurve and the Sorrows of Arlathan, but the 100 gold might make this a hesitant purchase. Also, the 2 people you have to let die to get this bow might make sleeping a bit harder to do. For our 7th slot, let's go into some secrets with the Missing Child quest. This quest is fairly straightforward. We meet Caitlin, who is in the Chantry, and offer to find her brother, who is hiding out in Caitlin's house. When we press Bevan on why he's here, he will admit he's looking for his grandfather's sword, as he was a great dragon slayer. We can then get the key from Bevan, or simply lockpick the chest to receive the sword known as the Green Blade for ourselves. We then have several options. We can take it and not give it back, we can pay Caitlin for the sword, or give it back to them after the Battle of Redcliffe with the undead. The last option, in my opinion, is the most interesting, as after the battle we can find out more about what Caitlin and Bevan plan to do if we give it back. Additionally, if we give it back, we find out that Bevan keeps the sword and becomes a renowned adventurer like his grandfather. However, let's take a closer look at this blade. When we equip it, it is curved, and we can tell that it is a similar make to other ancient elven blades such as Dare Masu. Indeed, looking at the description of the weapon, we find out it is from ancient elven times. This is weird because everybody calls this Bevan's grandfather's sword, which implies that he made it himself. However, this blade couldn't have been Bevan's grandfather. The age of this sword would be many centuries, and Bevan's grandfather would be maybe 100 or so. He must have just found the sword and used it, which makes taking it a bit more justifiable. Well, not really, as they are still poor orphans, but still, the Green Blade is a very interesting piece of history from ancient elven times, even if it isn't the best meta-wise. For our 8th slot, let's start discussing some cut content. There was originally going to be a human commoner origin to have some duality with the human noble origin, but it was scrapped early in design. The commoner origin would have featured the character in Redcliffe Village facing an unlikely antagonist, Dwyn, the rude dwarf who is tied to several quests at Redcliffe. Apparently, Dwyn's main job in Redcliffe is a loan shark, and in the origin, our family would have taken out a loan and have subsequently been killed by Dwyn. The origin had some other interesting choices, such as the player character being given a prophecy. However, it seems that Dwyn's prominence in Redcliffe was a leftover feature of the human commoner origin. For our 9th slot, we're staying on cut content. Shale's entire recruitment quest was actually originally going to take place in Redcliffe, not Honleaf. Murdoch would have taken over much of the quest's dialogue, and the quest would have likely been a bit shorter than the quest we have now. Simply buying the rod from Lloyd and finding the correct phase and getting some background info would have been the entire quest in Redcliffe based on the files that we have. Shale would have also had unique dialogue with several Redcliffe villagers, having observed them for over 30 years.
Oh dear. Isn't that the statue that's been standing outside for years now?
And it is the human that likes to lie in my shadow when coupling with others of its kind.
And it speaks? Or does it drink ale too?
Thankfully, no. Perhaps it should serve those who require serving.
Then I will do that. Welcome to the bar, at any rate. Statue man.
Additionally, the Windmill House, which is the first house we see when entering Redcliffe, would have actually been Wilhelm's house, though overall I'm glad Shale was put into a separate village, so that Redcliffe doesn't become a cluster of quests that would rival an MMO. For our 10th and final slot, I hope you're not getting tired of cut content yet, because I still have more. Moving back to Jowan, we can play as both Jowan and Irving when we enter the Fade to save Connor. Jowan has a full set of spells from when we first meet him in the Mage Origin, and this is all because originally Jowan was going to be a full party companion after the main quest of Redcliffe. This would have led to some interesting interactions, bringing him back to the Mage Tower and also meeting Loghain. Additionally, Jowan would have been recruited under the rite of conscription to free him from the Owl's imprisonment. This would mean that Jowan would have become a Grey Warden, which is really baffling to think about, and it also would have changed a lot of the final components of the quest if we really think about it, but we'll dive into that a bit later. And that concludes another 10 details, secrets, and things. I hope you all enjoyed, and I thank you all for watching. Please leave some comments on some things that you know about Redcliffe that maybe others don't. You know, thinking about Redcliffe, it's such an important part of the main game. I mean, we keep going back to it. It has a lot of interesting history that we've only just briefly touched on. All Eamon is an essential character to the whole game. You know, I really wish that there was a way we could see what happens Redcliffe in the later games. Oh. Whoa. That'd be an interesting segue. Thank you all for watching.